Welcome to Common Sense Cafe with Jeff.
And Kevin.
All right, we're here today, and our goal is to simply discuss common sense ideas on different subject matter. We've chosen for the subject matter how to overcome adversity and obstacles to success. Now, two things that we're going to point out in the opening. Number one, we are not self-help gurus, right? That's not the purpose of our deal.
Yeah, but our common sense level is pretty high.
Yeah, I agree. So,
or either most of the people we hang around is pretty low.
so our common sense is very uncommon.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so that's the number one thing. Number two is why are we doing this? We have these conversations with one another, and they've helped us. We've helped each other in being sounding boards and what have you. We've brought up ideas within our own relationship that have spawned us and spurred us to think about deeper things and and kind of to motivate us to move on those things. So if it's helped us,
Right. Sometimes you just go through life and you're experiencing things that can help you even later, but you don't take time to note it, make mental note of it, so that you learn from it.
Right.
Just going through life.
you're exactly right. And one of the goals as a father, I know, one of the things that I always hoped for was that my experiences, whether good or bad, I'd always hoped that my children would somehow learn from my experience and avoid the bad and cling to the good. So beyond my own personal family, now I feel like that maybe I'm at a point in my life to where some of what I've been through, some of the things that I've accomplished, some of the things I've failed at, those experiences can help somebody else.
Right. And we may be a little late to help ourselves.
Yeah, in some areas it's just...
I thought about one of the names for this series I thought about was Before I Forget. So, maybe this will help us before we get too much older. We learn a little bit from this too.
And we've collaborated on a couple of other things. We wrote a book about our childhood together.
Right.
That was fun and engaging and comical but
Like
really
the best time
reflective.
of our life.
Absolutely, reflecting back on that best time.
Mm-hmm.
We've also spent time collaborating a little bit on the subject matter of things my dad never taught me, being not having our own father. So because of those things being in our life and because of the conversations we've had, we felt like that this is a good time for us to maybe pass some of that on to some other people who may be interested or may not.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
One thing about posting things like this on a blog on Facebook is there's a little number down there.
That's
If you
right.
like it or not.
That's right. So please like it, but push like. So another thing that has kind of motivated us to do this is we recently done an interview process in a church setting that received really good response. People really responded well to the information and the format.
Right. I actually had some feedback that it actually affected people's lives. They didn't just like it.
Right.
It affected their life. So.
Even in particular, a very specific subject or a very specific individual, a young person,
Right.
a teenager who took time to seek out somebody to go and talk to them about the subject matter that we covered during that.
That's right.
So it was good. So
you can't ask for, it's one thing for people to like it, but when you see people inquisitive about it,
and then to act on it. Then to
act on it,
put a tack on it.
that's
So-
true.
So we thought we would start with a series on the subject matter of overcoming adversity and obstacles to success. And remember, this is common sense ideas, common sense things that we prior to education, prior to reading as much as we have, because we're both avid readers, prior to all of that, these are some of the things that we implemented in our life, to some degree by trial and error, that became common sense ideas that we've kind of clung to.
Right, yeah. So,
Well, let's.
good, sounds like our table has a little squeak into it. And I also noticed, I got a little hearts on my cup.
Yeah, I did.
You got
Yeah.
Lenore, North Carolina.
Yeah,
Police?
mine has a shield and a Lenore Police Department. Well,
And you were the one who chose the cup.
I did. I thought that would fit
Maybe
your
I'm the
personality.
king of hearts.
I thought it would fit your personality.
Ladies, well, anyway, and,
So, subject matter. We chose overcoming adversity. So, you had this idea. We were talking about it some the other night about where we were at a specific point in our life, 1982,
yeah.
and the conditions we were in. And that's kind of our jumping off point.
I'm not sure, I bet there's a lot of family members don't even know the situation we were in at that time.
I bet you're right. Yeah, I bet you're right.
So,
We'll describe it.
well, best that I can remember, we were living in Covington, Louisiana. You and Kim,
Mhm.
was Justin born then?
No,
No, just
she was pregnant.
you and Kim were married, and it was you and Kim, Mama, Debbie, Les, and me, all living in a one-bedroom. Really, you couldn't call it a bedroom. There's
No.
just a partition between the living room and bedroom, so it's more of an
Efficiency apartment,
So,
yeah.
we were all living in that one apartment in Covington, Louisiana, and at the time that I remember most, we didn't have any electricity. Power was out. You know, everywhere sleeping with it was I guess spring or early summer, because
Yeah.
we were sleeping with the door open and trying to keep it a little bit cool in there. But you and Kim had the bed. The one bed.
Right, the one bed.
I guess Mom and Debbie slept in the living on
One
the couch.
slept on a couch and one slept in a recliner.
I slept on an army cot in the kitchen, and Les slept beside me on a makeshift cabinet.
Yeah.
How old was he at that time?
See, in 1982, and he was born in 77, so he was about 5 or 6 years old.
And I guess I was 20 at the time then.
See,
82.
82, you'd have been 20, I'd have been
20.
19.
Yeah. So early time in our adulthood, I
Yeah.
guess. So.
Yeah. Unemployed at the moment.
That's right.
Yeah.
Employed by all of us.
All of it. Right, it's significant.
Oh,
Everybody in the house is unemployed.
no money.
And the 5-year-old looked like the most employable person in the group.
Probably so.
But you're right, so we're all unemployed.
We should have just got him a lawnmower.
That's right. Would have found that. And then no lights, no job, no future.
No future, no money, no government support.
That's right, no government support. So it was just us, and
No education.
right, both of us had dropped out of school,
Yeah.
and so while we're talking about that, just for a moment, that there are adversities in life that are external. And then there are adversities that are internal, meaning some are decisions I didn't make, but other people have made and it affected me. But then there are decisions I made that affected me, which would be my internal, and the others being external. So these things were in our life, and one of them was neither one completing school.
Right. Right.
So that was
Bad choices on our
Right.
part.
yeah. And so we find ourselves then in this situation, Covington, Louisiana, no family around. Family's 4, 5, 6 hours away. Talking about extended families. No government support, no job, no lights, no money, and here we are.
Yeah.
Not 19, 20 years old.
Yeah.
So where does life go?
That's right. you know, what do you hope for? What do you wish for? At that point in your life, how do you even dream?
Right.
But somehow, we were more or less positive.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was a innocence or naivety that we were naive or
Right.
what, you know, I don't know, but we weren't just down in the dumps, you know, as far as our emotions.
That's right. We never felt like, I don't know that we ever felt like life would never be better than this. I think we always felt like we're moving forward. we couldn't see it, but I think we had that feeling.
I think so too. We didn't know what we were going to do, but we knew somehow. And you know, I think it has to go back to our strong Christian faith. Not to make this all about our spiritual walk, because there's some things outside your spiritual walk that affect you, and those are the things we're talking about, decisions making. But it hadn't been our faith that just kept us that somehow, somewhere in the future, God was going to change things and allow us some opportunities.
Absolutely.
And so I don't know how long we were in that particular situation. It wasn't like we lived like that for months and years.
Right, yeah.
But we had, just to get to that one point where you've got no money, no education, no electricity running home, nobody has a job. So from there, Mama got a job at what's the name of the
Hardware, was it the hardware
It was
store?
either Woolworths or something
kind
like
of five and
that.
dime store.
It
or
was one of
something.
those 5 dimes that are out of business now. I can't remember the name of it, whether it was Woolworths or something like that. Or was something like that. So she got a job working there. I'm sure it wasn't paying much. Just on the sales floor, and either the first or second day she went to work, we got an advance, or she got an advance on her payroll. 2 days and you need an advance on your payroll. So she got an advance on her payroll enough that we bought a skill saw and a hammer.
Yep.
I don't know if we bought anything else, but
No.
that's what we bought, and we had this. Somehow we had gotten this job where a man hired us to put wood siding up on the
Dormer, on the dormer
Yeah,
of the gable that comes out on the rooftop, the dormer.
Right.
Yeah. Redwood wedge siding is what we have.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
We were downtown Covington, and they were revitalizing the old buildings, and this was some kind of little business and 2-story. I guess it's 2-story.
Yeah.
And we were just putting siding on the dormers up on top of the roof. And
What was our experience in doing that?
the only time I remember using a hammer was me and Steve were when we were kids, about 5 or 6, nailing on some building blocks.
So you and your cousin building blocks together when you were little kids. So I think this is a fundamental thing, and I don't want to get too deep off into it, but I do want to mention it now that we can come back to later. One of the fundamental things is that we were never afraid to attempt something. Never afraid to attempt something. Regardless of our level of previous understanding, we felt like that we had the qualifications to, we'll figure this out as we go if we have to, because we're moving forward.
Right.
So, yeah, that was interesting. So, skill saw and a hammer,
Skill saw and a hammer.
advance on 2 days worth of pay, 2 days worth of work by mom,
Yeah.
and so here we are in business.
Construction company. Yeah. So I don't remember where things go from there.
Well, we began really a very slow process of moving from one job to a little bit better job to a little bit better job to a little bit better job. But
And when you mean better job, you mean building a sidewalk out there,
that's right.
scraping paint on the
That's
on
right.
the house from a
That's
guy
right.
from church that we, and that was tough. That
Yeah, it was.
The guy got a good deal.
He sure did. Yeah, and it
Oh,
wasn't
I
like
hate that.
we jumped into some it wasn't like next week we went out and bought a truck and put our name on the side of it. We just,
Right.
whatever we could do. And I think at that time success to us looked like surviving, having the
Yeah,
normal things of like having electricity.
right, yeah.
Not sleeping on a cot, not your little brother not sleeping on a cot set up on the stove door that's open in the kitchen. I think we look at success, and again, this is another thing that we're going to come back to and talk more about. But success changes. What does success looks like in your life? It changes as you go, and we felt successful. We had taken that hammer, that saw, and we had moved ourselves forward.
Yeah.
And we felt successful in that.
Right.
So we're going to come back to those two and talk in depth more later. But
I remember at that point in our life, driving by a mobile home that was just on the outskirts of town. It was a mobile home out on a lot that obviously had not been lived in a long time. The grass or weeds had grown up 3-4 foot high over the door, and thinking, man, if we could just get that for a little bit of money, or tell the guy we're gonna fix it up and we'll live in it for fixing it up, he can let us live in it for a while. Now, it's something that was just really run down, but to us, to our eyes at that time, it was opportunity.
right,
We saw opportunity,
yeah,
and we didn't do that, but
Right.
it didn't work out. But that's our mentality.
that's
was
right.
you could see things that seemingly was worthless, but you saw opportunity in
That's
it.
right. And if I'm not mistaken, we went in those travels. One of the next major moves, if you please, for us was a little mobile home that was, I think, a 2-bedroom where me and Kim slept in one bedroom. Mom and Debbie slept in one bedroom, and then you and Bubba slept in the floor in the living room. 'Cause I remember coming through one morning and scaring you half to death on my way to work. So we took what we had and we just kept moving forward.
Right.
We we didn't know any other way. We didn't know to lay down and give up. All we knew was tomorrow promises to be better. So
Right.
we kept moving forward. So I eventually hooked up with another guy in the church called Alan. Alan owned a construction company.
Mm.
And I went to work with Alan.
Because it's very obvious that was not my calling.
It was you had other gifts that were more prominent.
You took the hammer and steel saw and learned. I was just bending nails, bending fingernails.
But I went to work with Alan, and I remember I had the first day out. It was in Louisiana, and I had been working out. I had a sunstroke, I had a heat stroke, and laid on the back of the truck, throwing up and everything, and they all took bets on whether or not I would come back because I was so sick, and I was off for 2 days, and I finally did go back. But in the meantime, in this process, you wound up with a job that set you on a different path. What were you doing in Covington?
Well, let's see. Now this was a little bit later than we're talking about now, but eventually, and just eventually, as we continued to just grow in the process a little bit.
So within the first year?
Yeah, it had been within about
the
a
first
year.
Yeah, okay. Both of those,
So-
both of the scenarios will be within the first year of our.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, it was. I mean, we're talking within a month we may move 3 times. That's right. So, but eventually, they were opening a new Walmart store there in Covington, and I had worked for Walmart when I was a teenager. So I went in and asked for a job, and they gave me a job. First thing I had to do was that they sent me doing was taking. I was on a scaffold with wheels, and I would go around and put the light ballast in, the ballast in the light fixtures, and did that. I remember one of the things they had me to do not long after that, because I had some construction background. They had these styrofoam signs that they would hang from the ceiling, and they had me to take a quarter round trim or something, some kind of trim, I don't even know what kind of trim, but some kind of trim, and to make a frame for all these signs. Well, and I stained the wood, cut them out the angles, and put the frame on both sides, and went through a few signs, and the assistant manager come up there and he said, well, you got the frame wrong. He said the one side of the frame had a flat edge and the other side had an angle on it, you know, and I don't know if I had the flat side on the outside or the flat side on the inside angling out, I don't know, but I was doing it wrong. It was like, I've never seen a frame before.
So you went to
So I went
work
to work with Walmart.
with Walmart.
Just doing the little piddly stuff, and
And I went to work for Allen, and I was doing, you know, of course, last guy hired, you get all of the junk jobs. I toted wood around and so forth, and that was pretty much all I did. And I think, I can't remember what I made, but it wasn't much above minimum wage.
right.
And it was about a 45-minute drive for me to get to work and back. So, but we did those things, took those things, and thought, we're moving on up. We weren't.
I was happy not to be hitting my nail with a hammer anymore.
So, what kept us from just being absolutely bitter during those times? I know we talked about our faith, but